好。Hello everyone, we are the group of Wish HD, and today we are going to present the Parramatta Road for the urban form and design. We are going to present our contents from macro analyze, meso analyze, and micro analyze, the three aspects.
Parramatta Road connects Sydney and Parramatta, is one of the oldest roads in Australia, and it is also the major road of Sydney. Different to many of Sydney's famous roads, Parramatta Road is not a ridge road. It lies between the east and west ridge line and the Parramatta River, an original built from an original trail that was far away from the Parramatta River to avoid flooding. In the eastern and central areas of the road, it diverts to reduce the number of creek crossings, and in the west, the road becomes straight due to the flat topology. The Parramatta Road goes up and down between small ridges and valleys. So when driving in Parramatta Road, the eastern road can be more undulating, curvy, and difficult to drive than the western roads.
The early 19th century Parramatta Road was an important route that linked in Sydney and Parramatta, an administrative and commercial center. The urban expansion and growing suburbs throughout the 19th century improved and extended its road. This area, when automobile industry started reaping its dividends in the 20th century, became a busy corridor with successful road business establishments, such as car dealerships and service stations. A 1950s image of Annandale underscores it playing a transport and commercial hub. In 1811, Parramatta Road was built over an indigenous pass, becoming a key road between Sydney and Parramatta, initially a toll road. It formed the foundation of the transport network. With the 1855 opening of Sydney Railway, long-distance travel moved to rail, and Parramatta Road became a local commercial road. In the 1920s, the road became busier with cars, but livestock crossing continued until the 1960s. By 1950, traffic congestion led to congestion of the M4 motorway, easing traffic west of Concord. Historical photos show the road's bustling commercial life, from the milk bars to panoramic views of Lake Cardet. Today, Parramatta Road is being renewed, evolving from a transport road to a diverse commercial and cultural space. This slide highlights the evolving transport connectivity along Parramatta Road. Initially, before the 1920s, waterways were the main mode of transport and trade. By the 1820s, the construction of Parramatta Road greatly improved regional access, linking Sydney to its suburbs. The railway system, introduced by 1855, shown in yellow, further enhanced accessibility and influenced suburb development. By 1950, the motorway system, in red, marked a shift towards efficient road transport, reflecting the region's evolving transport modes. Originally named Rose Hill, Parramatta's connection to the Sydney evolved from a ferry transport on the Parramatta River to a road and carriage transport as the Parramatta Road was widened, boosting suburb growth. This chart shows changes in average daily traffic on Parramatta Road from the 1981 to 2016, measured at the Clayton Railway crossing.
And this section shows how the Parramatta Road changed over the 200 years.
Colonial period to early 20th century blue markers. During the colonial period to the early 20th century, Victorian-style shopfronts along Parramatta Road express colonial architecture with early urbanization. The main buildings are around the University of Sydney and in Camperdown. This gives evidence of city growth at that time and thus the urban expansion. Early to mid 20th century orange marker. In the early to mid 20th century, automotive industrial arose along Parramatta Road. The area of Five Dock was infested with the car showroom sales and the service stations, which drove to the bomb of the land use created the automobile industrials. Along with the building of the Annandale Hotel and Alice of Licardate, which manifested more social and traffic functions for its particular road. Late 20th century to modern times, in the red markers. In the late 20th century up to modern times, important centuries such as Parramatta City Centre, Flemington Market, and Sydney's Centre started cropping up. Flemington became the Sydney's main wholesale market, and Parramatta developed into an important economic and cultural focus for Western Sydney. Sydney City Centre contributed to develop and sought to establish itself as a leading Australian economic centre. Broadway transformed from a railway into a commercial center, which reflects the change in land use.
Parramatta Road connects the Sydney CBD with the Parramatta CBD, and the Sydney CBD urban growth has followed along Parramatta Road. Most of the suburbs were built or planned before 1917, by which time the city had expanded to Strathfield in the west. But in 1871, the area like Burwood Ashfield was still very less in population, with less than 1,000 people living in. By 1933, Sydney's urban expansion had accelerated rapidly. Due to the construction of Parramatta Road and Railway, there are close to 50,000 people live in Burwood, Strathfield, and Alban, forming large-scale suburbs at the time. By the 21st century, Sydney's population had reached 6 million and the city is still expanding towards west, particularly in the Parramatta area, with over 100,000 people live in Alban and Parramatta. The Parramatta Road corridor is significant for its role in shaping Sydney's westward expanding suburbs in an industrial development. In the earlier 1850s, much of the route was undeveloped, with only some settlements and a few roadside hotels. But then, large scale of the land for development began to occur along this corridor, and suburbs gradually developed. In 1932, when the land was filled with housing, village-style strips of shops were built to serve the new population. Victorian-style shopping streets are most significant along Parramatta, particularly between Annandale and Leichhardt and Burwood area. And now, retail and mixed-use buildings are mainly concentrated in the eastern section of the road, such as in Leichhardt and Annandale, covering various shops like fashion, furniture, and auto sales. And residential and mixed use are more commonly found in the central and western sections of Parramatta Road, especially in Homebush. In the western part of Parramatta Road, particularly in Alban and Licum, You can see industrial facility combined with modern commercial spaces. The automotive industry spans the entire length of the Parramatta Road. Car sales, car washings, repair shops are full of the road.
Based on the richness of historical information, the diversity of places, and the priority of urban development, we chose the east side of Parramatta Road as our location. After the decision was made, a more in-depth study of historical sites and the landmarks was conducted, and the meso-study boundary was conducted based on the 20 important sites listed above. Some of the more important and historical significant sites include Pioneers Memorial Park, the Leichhardt Fire Station, St. Ficus Catholic Church, and Norton Street, all four of which are located on the Leichhardt, and the earliest constructed could be dated back as far as 1886. In addition to this, there is Harold Park, Hunter Bailey Memorial Presbyterian Church, Glebe Town Hall, Annandale Hotel, and the University of Sydney Quadrangle. These historical buildings are located on the northeast side of Parramatta Road. The earliest of these dates back to 1854 and are even commemorated on a national level. Finally, there's Camperdown Cemetery and Stanmore House. They are located south of Parramatta Road, the earliest Camperdown Cemetery dated back to 1848. The land in the area is mostly flat with only a few larger undulations near the harbour in the north. As you can see from the sections, the only land on the east side of Parramatta Road that's tilted a little to the north, and the rest of the topography is mostly flat around the Parramatta Road. The historical images also shows that the urban area are flatter than the suburbs. As Macro mentioned, the only recorded zoning scheme in Sydney in the 1800s was the Sydney CBD, and the other area around the Parramatta Road was either a farmland or a colonial area. The earliest emerged suburbs were Petersham and Lewisham, which were being colonized in the 1880s, and the latest was Annandale in 1870s, but the only listed documents are land division plans. In the 1900s, urban area began to expand. However, the planning methods of that time were still outdated. Sydney Council classified residential and industrial area according to A, B, and C. And as you can see from the map, there was a high proportion of the residential area and very few commercial and industrial areas. The zoning of 1958 on the west side is extrapolated based on history and available information. The biggest difference compared to the current zoning map is the addition of many commercial area and a lot of traffic planned for convenience. The way to maintain or even increase the number of residential areas on the site is to set up regulations for residential density. Similar to the zoning map, legal boundaries underwent a process of going from few to many, from rough to fine over the decades. As you can see, Annandale and Newtown were not yet in existence in the 1800s, and the Forest Lounge had not yet been subdivided from Glebe. It can be surmised from the historical information that the west side consists roughly of Leichhardt, Stanmore, Lewisham, and Petersham. Some urbanizations can be seen in the 1900s, but there's still a lot of suburbs that hasn't differentiated by the council. And the modern legal boundary map shows the boundaries we are familiar with now. Forest Lounge, Stanmore, and Lewisham were emerged in 2000s until now.
Okay, this is Wei Tong, and I will continue to talk about our meso analysis. And the first is about the connectivity of the mesoscale selected probes. And the selected Parramatta borders, like Annandale, Forest Lodge, Glebe to the north, and Petersham, Stanmore, and Camperdown to the south. The road continues to Lewisham to the west, and Chipdale, and Ottoman east to the east. And this mesoscopic road mainly contains the areas near Sydney Central and lakehead and providing convenient transportation between the local area and Sydney's central area. And shown next are some altars of the suburbs of Sydney from 1886 to 1890 related to Parramatta Road from through the Dictionary of Sydney website. And through this atlas, we can understand the relevant historical considerations, conditions of the selected area from 1886 to 1890. And by making college adjustments to these historical maps, the author simulated the layout of Sydney's Parramatta Road Meso area cover 1886 to 1890. There are some problems with the connection of some boundaries, and the author can only make some subjective repairs. It can be seen from the figure that from 1886 to 1890, there were still many blank areas in urban land planning, and there were two large water bodies on the east and west sides of the selected land, although they have now become really small rivers. And next is the classification of roads at that time, which are mainly divided into three levels. And they are state roads, regional roads, and some other secondary roads that are still preserved well, as well as roads that will be eliminated in the future. And it can be seen from the figure that the road grade division was relatively simple at that time, which was related to the division of urban plan parcels at that time, and the connection between parcels were relatively lacking. And this picture shows the road hierarchy of the selected mesoland plot using Google Earth Pro as the base map. It mainly displays state roads and regional roads. And the current photos use Parramatta Road in the state road and Norton Street in the regional road. And next two parts, we subdivide the state and regional roads and label the road names connecting the parcels. We made road cross section of Foster Road and Norton Street for comparison. It can be seen from the road cross sections of these two types of road that state roads clearly distinguish between motor vehicles and non-motor vehicles, and most of them are four lanes. However, on regional roads, motor and non-motor vehicles have no clear separation and can be used freely. Yeah, this one is the regional road and the road cross section. And this picture shows the analysis of road classification. According to the Road Act 1993, road classification is mainly divided into 5 types: highways, main roads, secondary roads, tollway roads, and transitways. And other 7,000 series roads are unclassified classified regional roads under the administrative agreement. It can be seen from figure that there are 4 types of roads in the plot: express, main roads, secondary roads, and unclassified roads. And highways and main roads are mainly responsible for transportation connections between different areas, while the secondary road and unclassified roads are mainly responsible for regional and functional roads. And this picture mainly shows the current architecture texture of the Mesoland Pro.
The black boundaries shows the area of microanalysis. This historic picture and modern picture shows the process of historical change from the previous horse-drawn carriages and trains to today's cars. The pedestrian bridge on the road shows that the people are no longer the master of the Parramatta Road. The streams and gurgling waters of the past have become dry and lively today. The flood control function is also difficult to exist. The wooden pavement has been replaced by asphalt. The bus station has replaced the post station, and the old and new electric poles from a sharp contrast, but the memory of the history cannot be erased. This area is mostly low-density buildings with a small number of high-rise buildings, most of which are centered around the automotive industry. There isn't a lot of open space in the whole area, and it is not very people-friendly. The 2 meters pedestrian walkway makes people feel the pressure from the street. Most of the public space is dominated by the cars. The large number of intersections have heavy traffic, lack of pedestrian passage, and noise make the surrounding area uninhabitable. Trees are a luxury on this road. They are only available in private space. Shabby furniture, only some sitting space and facilities on the side roads. The eye-catching red McDonald's is a landmark. There were few people and many cars on the main road. There are nothing else but 2 pigeons enjoy the solitude. Judging from the changes in the land use, the government tends to expect to improve the environment. Parramatta Road is the boundary of multiple administrative districts, making it difficult to coordinate planning. This page highlights the speed limit on different roads and shows the lack of car parking space. The next is risk. Thank you, that's all.